factoring quadratics once again, and we're going to put these in the form of binomials. So first, let's start off by putting our parentheses here so we know that we're going to use binomials. We're going to use the FOIL method to check it when we multiply our binomials. Now, let's look at this. Remember that we have to look at a few things before we even start the factoring process. The first thing we're going to look at is the second sign here. The second sign inside of our quadratic here, our expression known as the quadratic or trinomial, is a negative sign. So that lets you know automatically that the signs are going to be different inside of the binomials. That means one is going to be a plus, one is going to be a minus, all right? Because remember, when you multiply, let's go over here, go back to our multiplication facts here. When we multiply a positive times a negative, we get a negative. When we multiply a negative times a positive, we also get a negative. But if we multiply two positives, we get positive. And if we multiply two negatives, we would get positive also. Okay? So remember those rules from probably some grade levels, maybe 4th or 5th grade. All right, so that's what we definitely need to know. We have to multiply. We're going to have in our quadratics or in our binomials, we're going to have a negative and a positive, or a positive and a negative. Now, let's go to the next thing that we need to know here. Well, we're looking at 3a here, and it has a minus sign in front of it. This is all going to be determined by the factors of 18. This is how we're going to know which sign to put in which binomial. All right, so let's do that first. Let's list out the factors of 18. The numbers that we would use to get, in this case, is going to be a negative 18. So let's start off. We can do a negative 1 times 18, and we can also do a negative 18 times 1, right? That will give us a negative 18. We can get a negative 2 times 18, and negative 2 times 9, by the way, not negative. Negative 2 times 9, and we can also do a negative 9 times 2. All right, let's keep going. Then we have a negative 3 times 6, and we also have negative 6 times 3. Okay, think about it. 4, no, because 18 is not a multiple of 4. 5, no. 6, we have 6 already, so we don't need to do it again. 7, nope. 8, no, these are not multiples of, or not factors that will give us 18, or negative 18 in this case. All right, so I think we have, and I know we have all the factors that we need. So now we need to check and see which factors, when we add them together, will give us a negative 3. All right, so now go back to the factors and begin the adding process. A negative 1 plus 18 would actually give us, negative 1 plus 18 would actually give us positive 17. Negative 18 plus 1 would give us a negative 17. Negative 2 plus 9, that will give us positive 7. Negative 9 plus 2 would be a negative 7. Negative 3 plus 6 will give us a positive 3. A negative 6 plus 3 will give us a negative 3. Now, which one do we want? In the beginning, we wanted a negative 3. So we wanted a negative 3, so a negative 3a. So which factor gives us a negative 3? Okay, if you said the final one down here, negative 6 times 3, that would be correct. Now you know which sign goes where inside of the binomial. The negative 6 is going to go first, and the positive 3 would be second. All right, so let's try it now. So we'll put negative 6, positive 3, and of course we'll come back and check. And we have a squared, a to the second power, a raised to the power of 2. So that means we need to put an a here and an a here. All right, now let's multiply using the FOIL method to see if we get the correct answer. See if we come back to a squared minus 3a minus 18. All right, a times a A times A is A squared. A times 3 is a positive 3A. Negative 6 times A would be a negative 6A. And then negative 6 times 3 would be a negative 18. Okay, let's combine the terms that are alike. We have negative 3 minus 6A. My A is looking almost like a Q, but let's just try to make it the best A I can. Negative 3A minus 6A is actually a negative 3A. And then we have our minus 18, okay? So, if we look at this quadratic, does it match with the original? Yes, it does. A squared minus 3A minus 18, okay? Now, as I mentioned before in another video, I said that you can always investigate and see if you change the signs around, would you get the same answer? So let's say if this A minus 6 became A plus 6 and this A plus 3 became A minus 3, would you get the same answer? Investigate so you will mitigate your mistakes going forward. All right, so A plus 6 and then we have A minus 3. We're just going to change the signs around just to check. All right, so now let's multiply using the FOIL method. We'll get A squared still, that won't change. And then we have the outer, which is a negative, the outer is a negative 3A. The enter is 6A, so we're going to put 6A here. And then the last would be a negative 18. Combine like terms. The like terms is negative 3A and 6A, which will give us a positive 3A and minus 18. All right, so as we can see, our 3A changed to positive, so it's not matching up to what we have here. It's not matching up. So the sign placement is very important. And if you list out your factors and you find your sums, you will more than likely get the correct answer. All right, so this has been another lesson on factoring quadratics when the leading coefficient is 1. I will see you in the next lesson. Kwaheri.